Since the dawn of man, there's been always two parts, an original and a sequel. Terminator Judgment Day, The Empire Strikes Back, Attack of the Clones, and now we have Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Came out during probably one of the biggest booms of science fiction, coming off the original, which was a moderate success. Everyone was super excited about it. They cut some time, made it shorter, and it's regarded as the best Star Trek film. What do you think? We just get into our general thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone new here, we've been watching Star Trek for the very first time after not seeing any of it ever. Now, after finishing the original series and the animated series and watching the motion picture, we finally arrived to Wrath of Khan, which, as of recording this, we watched last week, so we've had about a week to sit with it. And I really like this movie. If you watched our reaction to the movie, which is now available, and you watched our discussion afterwards, I definitely hit on some things that I didn't care for in the movie. But I have read some of our patrons' responses to what we said in our discussion, and
Mhm.
I found some of the things they said interesting. So I'm ready to dive in and have a good time with this one. What did you think of it?
Overall, I liked it a lot. It's quicker. It gets things out of the way. It gives you the things you want up front and opens up the doors for more. 'Cause it starts off like the big three are already together, celebrating Kirk's birthday. They're already friendly, buddy, buddy. It gives you that warm feeling.
Romulan ale.
So I like how they get that out of the way when in the motion picture, it's like, you know, give us what we want. You know what I mean? But I appreciate them making us wait. This one's like, okay, here's what you want that you already kind of got, but we got other places to go. But overall, I really like that. I'm still debating whether which one I like more. I think I like both for different reasons.
Yes, this is much different than the motion picture. And I think that's very good because it gives you reason to like both of them for different reasons. I am very curious to see what the next few movies are going to be like that we're going to watch before jumping into TNG, because for this one to be regarded as the best, I totally get it, but only seeing two movies, it's hard to like comment on that or like think, you know what I mean? Like take that into account. When I don't even know if it's my favorite of the two movies we've watched,
Yeah,
you
they're
know?
they're like night and day. Like, how do I pick?
I guess we can start with the title character of Khan. Khan returning here, Ricardo Montalban was absolutely jacked in this movie. He looked intimidating. I bought him. He wasn't, too old or too frail or anything to be intimidating. He was great, and that was one of my biggest issues with the movie is how we didn't get to see him on screen with anybody besides Chekhov and this other captain. And I wish we would have, but at the same time, I respected that they didn't go the quote unquote, Thanos route or the Bane route or any of the, modern movie equivalents of being the jack guy who comes in and wrecks everything. Yeah, he doesn't break Kirk's back over his knee. They didn't go that route. It was a much more kind of subtle, subdued, strategical of I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back at Kirk. But yeah, I wish they just were on screen together.
Yeah, just like one scene because they had like a fight scene in TOS, and I get it, both actors are older, but also it's kind of interesting how they didn't like it. It was purely space chess how they beat each other.
That's one of the things I was curious about is what is Khan's motivation? And I thought it was just going to be, oh, he left me here stranded and that's it.
Hmm.
So the added factor of this unforeseen thing happening to totally destroy Khan's civilization and kill his wife, which I'm really glad, even though I don't think they say her name, I think it's clearly supposed to be, MacGyver.
Yeah.
And I was afraid they just weren't going to bring her up at all. So to have that be part of the motivation, I think all of that really worked.
His chest, people were debating whether that's his real chest or not, but apparently it just kept in shape.
I can't think of any Star Trek villain that we've seen so far that even comes close to Khan, either in Space Seed or The Wrath of Khan, which is why I think it makes sense they chose him from the series to be in the movie. And I think it's going to be hard to top, for any movies or TV shows in the future.
Khan is just a fantastic villain. So directed by Nicholas Meyer, from what I understand, like he didn't like watch like any of the Star Trek beforehand, like, and he came on, haven't watched any, and he was like an uncredited writer for like all the final revisions. Takei read the script and he's like, I don't want to do this. Like I just feel like a tool. Like I don't have any arc or anything.
True.
Yeah, so like, okay, yeah, we'll give you some more scenes. I think they shot some more, but they cut them out anyway.
Oh my god.
And if you notice, the scene where like Sulu, Uhura, and I think Kirk like go to the Enterprise together for the first time. There's a scene where like there's an obvious cut where he's like his mouth opens, like he's gonna say something else.
I'm delighted. Any chance to go aboard the Enterprise?
Come on.
Poor,
Oh, just imagine him at the premiere watching that. Oh.
poor. Oh, this is my big scene, guys. Oh shit. Should we talk about that opening scene, the train,
Kobayashi Maru?
the Kobayashi Maru?
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite opening scenes ever. It kind of went all in with like the exploding sets and like everyone dies. Superhero entrance by Kirk, which is what we needed. I freaked out during the reaction. This is what we needed. Yes.
Prayer, Mr. Saavik. The Klingons don't take prisoners. Lights.
Woo!
That was great.
That's what we needed from the motion picture. That's an entrance.
What do you think about the Kobayashi Maru just in general? This idea of like this test that everyone has to take, but is a no-win scenario, and then that Kirk is the only one to be able to beat it, literally because he cheated and like changed the simulation.
I like it a lot. I like how it's just a morality test. Like there is no, there's no right or wrong or win. It's like I like that, and it's like Kirk's like so outside thinking the box. That's why he beat Spock in like 3D chess because maybe he cheated again, found like a loophole because he doesn't like to lose. And I think that really adds to him as a captain because he's been put in all these impossible situations, as we've seen in TOS. I think it works. It adds to his character. But he did take the test 3 times.
Yeah, I really like it too, and I love his line where he says, "I don't believe in a no-win scenario." I mean, that's great. That's excellent. Classic Kirk. This movie, I think, treats his character really well. Even though I did not like the whole son storyline, which some of our patrons really defended and were, saying that it adds to his character a lot. But I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I don't see it.
It would help if the kid wasn't so boring and like so like all the time.
Yeah.
It's like I guess he like comes around like I'm proud to be your son at the end, but he's just too miserable like the entire time leading up to that, where it's like I did not care about him.
I would have liked to see it executed better where he comes upon a former lover and it turns out they have a son that he didn't know about.
Yeah.
And how does this alter his whole life and how he thinks about everything and his career. But no, he already knew about this kid and really, frankly, didn't really care that much, at least that we got to see on screen. And then even when he meets back up with the woman and the son and everything, he like references it for one scene and then they just move on until the end of the movie.
One thing I noticed, I was watching a little bit of Space Seed before I came over, and they're doing like the test on Khan when he's still asleep. And it's like, oh, this guy, he must be strong enough to lift a person with one arm. What does he do? Picks Chekhov off.
Oh,
with one
wow.
arm. I'm like,
That's great.
Also, Chekhov not being in season 1, apparently like Walter like noticed and knew. It's like I didn't have a scene with him, but it's like he didn't want his scene to be cut or to be changed, so he just didn't say anything. And like on the convention circuit, he'd say, "Oh, it wasn't filmed, but off screen, I made Khan wait to use the bathroom for a long time," or something like that. So that's why he remembered my face. I'm like, okay, that's good.
Yeah, and I was actually very, like, if you watch our reaction, I'm very critical of that. I've softened on that, and the idea that Chekhov was on the Enterprise and just not one of the on-screen characters, because it's true that there are supposed to be over 400 people on the Enterprise, and we only see, what is it, 6 of them or whatever, as the main crew. So it makes sense that Khan would have seen him on the Enterprise and just not, been a part of that episode. So I have softened on that a little bit. With that being said, if that was something in a movie today, they would be completely destroyed by the internet.
Oh, yeah. I went back, I was watching the episode. Sulu's not even in the chair that episode.
Oh,
But,
yeah?
Yeah, like the 2 people, the 2 helmsmen, like Sulu wasn't even there.
I really loved that, and I just love the whole idea. This was one of the things I wanted to see from the movie, is like building out the world and making it seem more real. That yes, this same crew isn't always just going to be on the Enterprise together. Like in the first movie, it was, bringing Bones out of retirement, and this one, Chekhov being on a completely different ship in a different role, moving on with his career, and bringing in Saavik and everything. I really loved the feel of like, oh, these characters are moving on and living their own lives. So being able to see what their lives are like after, TOS really builds out that realism of like, thinking about what they're going to be doing, because after these next two movies, I know we're going to be return to them eventually, but it's like I'm going to be wondering, what are they going to be doing after that? And they've done a really good job thus far.
What's Spock going to be doing? Is he
Yeah.
is he going to be laying there?
Got to think about him, yeah. But yeah, that's why I really love it.
Some of the best dialogue, I think, in this. Like some examples. Who's been holding up the damn elevator? Kirk's in the elevator with Saavik. It's like, oh, change your hairstyle. It's like, oh, it's regulation. And then like after like she leaves, after she leaves and Bones comes in, she changed her hairstyle. Haven't noticed.
Great, yeah, great writing. And I know you said the director hadn't watched Star Trek until getting this job. I don't know if it looked like some of the people from Star Trek previously were credited on this, but whoever it was, whether they knew about it already or they did their research, they did a good job. Besides the Chekhov thing, they did a good job, really, with the callbacks, the continuity, knowing the characters. I was very impressed. So we've talked about Saavik a lot, but we haven't really talked about the actual character.
Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, Kirstie Alley as Saavik. I think she's probably my favorite new additional character we've gotten from the films.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the two new characters we got in the motion picture. But I really like Saavik, and I wish that she was given more for her character in terms of an arc. She got a little bit. But apparently the character is in future stuff, but it's not her. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But in terms of this movie and it being Kirstie Alley, I thought she did a really great job, and the character overall I thought was a welcome addition. If that character moves forward in Star Trek and is part of the rest of the movies, even if it's not Kirstie Alley, I'll be excited to see what she does, because there wasn't really anything I can think of that I didn't like about that character, besides the bias of, oh, well, wish I could just spend that time with Uhura or Sulu or Scotty or something. But if it's going to be a new character, at least make it good, and I think, it's a good character.
Yeah, I think you said it best. It's not much of an arc at the end, because they set it up so much with this, this maneuver that she eventually learns what Kirk did. So you'd hope that almost she would have the Spock sacrifice for her Kobayashi maneuver, but instead Spock gets it. I mean, it works for Spock too, because he's Mr. Logic, but like I think everything in the first half with her was so great, but then didn't really lead up to anything in the second half. Talk about the sets, just willing to fucking destroy them. I love it. Like during both space battles, even the intro battle too. It's like it's like they reused them and then they destroyed them. And apparently it was like the same set like when Khan's like in the Reliant and we're in the Enterprise. I think those were like the same set, just obviously shot differently. But man, they blew those up. I'd love to see it and to see the actual damage of what a space battle can do for the first time, really, instead of just like the camera shaking, was like amazing to see for like a lesser budget too, which is crazy.
The reveal of them finding the dead people on what was it called, Regula One?
Regula One, yeah.
The reveal of finding their dead bodies, I found very effective. Because I actually didn't know how far the movie was going to go with that, and it almost had like an alien type vibe in terms of creepiness.
Yes, there's like those dolly shots where like shoots, you see Saavik walking in the background, and it shows her on the screen just on the same dolly, and then it comes to I think Bones or Kirk, but it's like that slow, methodical, like what's happening, great stuff. I do love the prefix code scene where like if someone takes over a fellow starship, there's codes that only like members of Starfleet know that they can punch in and hack like a commandeered ship. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sir, our shields are dropping.
Raise them!
I can't!
Like, I get this for a dramatic effect, but after that space battle, Scotty comes up with the cadet, who apparently in like the director's cut, that was actually his nephew. That's why he was so broken up about it. But he brings the cadet up to the bridge why wouldn't he just go straight to the sick bay?
Yeah, it's
you
a
know,
bit.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that would have been nice to see from Scotty. I mean, we're always talking about wanting more character stuff. Having those scenes cut is unfortunate. We had a Patreon poll to decide if we should watch the theatrical and or the director's cut of the movie, and it was a 51-49 vote for the theatrical. So there definitely was a large contingent that wanted us to watch the director's cut. And overall, I get both arguments. I think that watching the theatrical cut, for one, in terms of Patreon, is just easier for people to sync with it because the only way to watch the director's cut is to buy it, I'm pretty sure. So, or probably to rent it from somewhere. But as to where the theatrical is, streaming and stuff.
Yeah.
But with that being said, yeah, I would have liked to see that from Scotty if that's the case with it being his son. Also, apparently, I don't know if this is in the director's cut, but I guess the guy on Khan's ship who dies, who he's like close to, is his son, but they just cut that all out of the movie.
Yeah, apparently he's like uncredited too, which is a weird part. Like he's like a big
That's
part of.
odd.
Yeah.
I thought that the Spock and Bones relationship was so much better here than in the motion picture, because the motion picture Spock is like playing such a cold version of himself.
You must learn to govern your passions. They will be your undoing.
You green-blooded inhuman.
Bridge to Admiral Kirk.
Yeah, it was perfect, reminding me of the show, and it was so great to see that in like an older Spock and Bones that, they're still going at it. That was great. And it almost makes me feel like maybe it's like they had spent so much time apart that in the their characters, that in that first movie they didn't have that back and forth, but now it's like they're both back into the swing of things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really
They weren't comfortable back together yet, but now that they're back together, it's full on. Spock's death scene.
Yeah.
The death scene was like, I don't know. So he realized that the only way they can get away if he fixes the warp engine, because it needed time, but they didn't have time. So Spock realizes, like, okay, the only way to do it is to do it manually. But if I do it manually, I'll be toxified. And I feel like the death scene could have been done better. Like, I like how after he's been infected, he stands up, he straightens his coat, very stoic, turns around, it's very serious, and then he walks and bumps into the glass. It's like, I don't know, that felt a little, like, almost took me out of it. His voice was a little too raspy, in my opinion. And like when he's talking to Kirk, like they're not making direct eye contact. It's really weird. They can tell like they're not looking right at each other. Could have been done better, in my opinion. Funeral was done great up until Scotty came in with with his bagpipes. Like that took us both out of it. Damn it, Scotty! Damn it! I was actually tearing up there until I saw Scotty with his goddamn bagpipes. Oh, fuck! I started crying.
Yeah, I think that on the death scene, it was just such a weird setup, for a death, and, having him in this tube where no one can get to him. I mean, I like the idea of it, but Spock is such a, weird character that it's already hard to imagine how he would act in a death scene, like how that character would react to dying. So that almost like kind of makes sense that it's weird. My biggest problem with it was him bringing up the Kobayashi Maru. It's like, dude, now's not the time. It's like you're about to die,
But he's like, this is my Kobayashi Maru. This is how I won the no-win scenario. I had to do something that would take me out, I guess.
And it was also one of those things that, every time you make a movie based on a show, it's the show and everything from the show versus what are the themes of this movie. And it's like the Kobayashi Maru was a big part of this movie and the themes of the movie. So in that way, it makes sense and it works. But knowing Spock for so long, it's like, why is he bringing that up right now when he's dying? It just threw me off. That's what took me out of it, But I agree. The funeral scene is one of my favorite scenes of Star Trek that we've seen so far. I don't think the Scotty on the bagpipes will take us out. Did it take you out on the rewatch too?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, I think it was just
not on the rewatch,
the absurdity of the first time watching it and not expecting that is what got me.
Yeah, it's like I look back at the footage, like both like teary-eyed, and I'm always looking for stuff to make me teary-eyed, and it's like I can never find it. So to catch it like out of nowhere was so nice. But then to be ripped back out again with the bagpipe, it's like, damn it, I was right there. Because when Kirk broke down, with that, he had that break in his voice when he said he was the most, human.
Of all the souls I have encountered in my travels, his was the most human.
Yeah, that is probably my favorite Star Trek line we've gotten so far. I mean, there's been a lot of great ones, but That was excellent, and it's so perfect for Spock's character too. Like if you know, for Spock to die, that is, it's just so perfect, and it wouldn't work for any other character. So yeah, I love that. Everyone says this is the best movie, so obviously, as much as we try to avoid having high expectations for stuff, there were high expectations for this, for me, and I don't know. I really like the movie. I just don't know. Uh, I just feel like I'm not going to be shocked if I end up really liking one of these next two movies. I know zero about either of them, but I've heard like literally nothing, and it's so funny because I've heard stuff about, just through comments and whatever, about like Star Trek 5 and 6, but I haven't even heard a single thing about 3 or 4. I
Yeah.
literally don't know anything.
Yeah, most of the time I can't even remember the title for 4. You know what I mean?
What is The Voyage Home?
Yeah, the voyage. Yeah, the
Yeah.
voyage home. Yeah, I have that excitement because I have that same excitement I had for the motion picture, not knowing anything. Like with this, I went in with the idea of like, okay, we know who Khan is. It's called Wrath of Khan. It's been built up as the best Star Trek movie, and I don't know if that was a detriment to it. That's why I like the movie, but I don't know if I love it. If that makes any sense, because I don't know. I really like the motion picture.
I just feel like I have such a high bar now, which I hate. I don't want to have a high bar, but it's like I have such a high bar for Star Trek now that it's like watching The Wrath of Khan. I'm like, yeah, I really like this. Like, this is really good. Like, this is much better than a lot of movies I see today, And it's like, but why don't I think it's like this perfect movie? And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, am I harsher on it than the people who saw it originally because they were just, they didn't have, kind of that perspective of never seeing anything Star Trek, a year ago, and now you've watched the whole show and fallen in love with these characters. I don't know. It's very interesting, but I don't want it to come off like, I feel like both with our reaction and then even a little bit in this discussion, like someone could watch it and think we're being negative about it. It's like, no, I think we both really liked this movie. I just, for some reason, didn't have like that over the top euphoric, like fall in love with it,
Yeah, yeah, good point. It's almost like someone's in it that I didn't like. Someone's kid. I just ruined it for me.
So yeah, we're gonna jump into Search for Spock. Will they find Spock? I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna end. It's gonna end on this planet. He's gonna have this hood. He's gonna turn around, and it's gonna be a shot of Kirk holding the tricorder, like that, and Spock's just gonna sit there looking at him like this. I'm doing the end of the Force Awakens.
And then the fourth one will open up and he throws it.
Yeah. Go away.
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?